Hey crew, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun project video we're going to be back over on the TOOCAA 40W Laser Engraver doing a woodworking experiment. Now ever since we went from the 20W to the 40W head upgrade on the laser, I found out that I can laser cut through thicker and thicker material at a much quicker pace as opposed to back when we just had the 20W head on the TOOCAA laser engraver. Keep in mind it's now a 40W laser engraver. The file we're going to be testing today is from the Etsy website, and it's already loaded up onto the Lightburn software, if you can see that white screen lit up on the laptop there. And what we are going to be attempting to do is some segmentation over on the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver. I've got a 1/2 inch piece of basic pine material here. Pine is of course very soft and easy to work with, and I felt it would be the appropriate material to try this experiment with. And if you are unfamiliar what segmentation is, we've done a few projects over on the scroll saw with segmentation, like this older Tropical Steve Good design here, and it's where you take one individual piece of material. This was a whole piece of 3/4 inch pine, basically like this, at 3/4 inch thick. You cut everything out. You can shape it if you want to, but you can paint, stain, or do whatever you want with the individual pieces, and then glue them back together to make a beautiful simulated three-dimensional scene. And that is what we are going to be trying with this piece of pine material over at the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver. And since summer is right around the corner, summer concerts have started up, I felt it would be appropriate to do a Tropical Tiki design. And since we need to get the material into the laser bed, get it held in place with a couple magnets, and get it framed out, let's move the camera and do that now after I turn on the air filtration unit and get our safety UV goggles on. And before we begin, you can see here in the Lightburn software the full file that we'll be doing. I'll laser cut the Tiki first, and then we'll come back with a piece of 1/4 inch material and make the backer board. But over here on the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver, I am zeroing out the laser head and turning on the GoPro, and we will frame out our piece of 1/2 inch pine here, making sure to avoid any of the knots. And I'll hit start. And you all know that this is traditionally my view when it comes to the laser engraver, but this is also why I put the GoPro on the inside of the enclosure, to give you all the best vantage point as possible when making these laser engraver videos. And we'll transition into that footage momentarily. But you can see how the laser enclosure is doing a great job of capturing all the smoke and the fumes and extracting them with the extractor out of the back of the workshop, keeping the air quality in the workshop itself as clean as possible. The laser done a phenomenal job of laser cutting through the 1/2 inch pine here. Of course, pine is a softer material, and I opted for 2 passes just to make sure it cut all the way through. But as you can see me in the background through the translucent case, I am doing other stuff out in the workshop. Of course, a laser is never a tool you want to leave unattended. The file we are using come from the Etsy website, and I am just using it for laser engraver purposes. But it took around 25 minutes to laser cut this out completely, and after it was done, we carefully removed all of the pieces, being careful to keep up with all the smaller parts in a little tray there. And then I put the piece of 1/4 inch material into the laser and re-zeroed it out and framed it out. And it did not take long at all for the 40W laser to go through the 1/4 inch material here, and it only took one individual pass to laser cut through all of this. And it only took around 2 or 3 minutes. But after all of the smoke and the fumes have been extracted, I came back and removed the piece. And now we are ready to begin the painting and assembly process. And you can see here on the card table all of the pieces that's going to make up our Tropical Tiki design. But I'll put on some gloves so I don't get any glue on them, and begin gluing the pieces with medium grade CA glue and activator. And we'll take our acrylic paint pens and I'll paint everything up with nice tropical colors. If you all like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. This, of course, was the biggest piece to paint. And one thing I love about the acrylic paint pens is they basically dry relatively quickly, almost instantly. So as I was painting the pieces, I was basically able to go right in and glue them back into place and do any required touch-ups. Just selecting the colors that I thought would look cool with the tiki itself. And again, after each piece was done, I was gluing them in place on the backer board with the CA glue and activator. It took me around 20 minutes to do everything here. I just had on some good music and I was just relaxed in the world of making this Tropical Tiki design. And of course, some of the parts are very fragile, so you just have to be very careful with them, especially if you make them out of pine, as I have here today. But we are almost done painting everything up, and then I'll give it a once over to make sure all of the paint is properly painted and do any touch-ups. But then it was time to finish it with a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when it dried, the Tropical Tiki design was complete. And here we have the completed Tropical Tiki design made using the segmentation method over on the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver, and it finished up beautifully with some tropical and summertime vibrant colors on it. It took the TOOCAA 40W laser around 25 to 26 minutes to laser cut this out completely from 1/2 inch pine, and it cut everything out cleanly and crisply. Since I didn't know how much power or speed I would need, I had it dialed back to 300 speed, and I had it at like 90%, and I went with 2 passes because, again, this is thicker than 1/4 inch material. We've bumped it up to 1/2 inch material here, as you can see in the thickness, and it cut out all of the pieces cleanly and precisely. Once again, this is a file that is available on the Etsy website, and you can pick it up relatively inexpensively for a few dollars, and you can use it for laser purposes like I have today. You could save it as a PDF format and print the design out if you are more comfortable on the scroll saw and want to cut it out that way. But this was just an experimentation over at the laser to hopefully get ideas for future more complex designs, if that makes any sense. Again, I just milled a piece of 3/4 inch pine shelving board down to 1/2 inch in thickness over at the Rikon table saw, and you can see here we could actually, if we wanted to, we could paint this backboard a nice ocean blue color or paint a tropical scene on it like palm trees or something, and then glue this in a way to where it was kind of standing proud, so that's another idea right there. I could have put spacers in the back of this to elevate or recess some of the pieces if I wanted to sand some of the material away. Again, this is the basic segmentation method, just like over at the scroll saw, where you take one individual piece of material. Both of these were made of pine. You cut everything out. With this instance, I sanded, shaped, and contoured everything and stained it a two-tone appearance, like you was looking through the porthole of a ship or something, or a nautical portrait, and then you glue everything back together before clear coating it. I've done the same thing with the laser engraver. I just did not do any kind of shaping or contouring. We just painted everything with the acrylic craft pens, as you've seen in the time-lapse portion. I just selected some nice vibrant colors, and keep in mind with this method you also need a backer board. So along with the 1/2 inch material we used, I used a scrap piece of 1/4 inch material I had laying around to make the backer board out of. And I love how you have that dark edge, so it looks like it's one individual piece of material as opposed to two different pieces glued together. But I would like to try maybe milling down some material like some exotics and hardwoods, and maybe make a project like this and use the natural colors, so we do not have to even use any kind of paints or stains or anything like that, just to see how all that would look. Now that would take it from the realm of segmentation and take it into the realm of intarsia work. So I'm kind of keen to try that. I'll do a lot of experimentation over on the TOOCAA 40W laser to see how it will react to different materials and see what the possibilities are. And of course, once I learn something new, I will bring the cameras back out to the workshop and of course film it to show it to you all out there in the big wide world we live in. Now I could have, if I had a bigger piece of pine material, made this project bigger. I could have made it a little bit smaller. I don't know how much smaller I would have went or could have went, because some of these pieces are very fragile and very delicate, and keep in mind they are made of pine. And anytime I walked over to the laser engraver, I tried to make sure that the safety UV goggles were on. Of course, the TOOCAA laser engraver is billed as the world's safest laser engraver, with that translucent case that protects your eyes, and then the laser head itself also has a shield on it, and then it has the dust extractor and fume extractor to pull out all of the smoke and the fumes. Of course, as I say in all laser engraver videos, you do not want to leave a laser unattended. You can of course go get a refreshment, you can go use the bathroom quickly if you need to, but do not leave them unattended for long periods of time, crew. And the whole time it was running, the air filtration unit was running, I had the fans running, I had the shop door open, since we are in the nice warmer months here in 2026, and that just kept the airflow circulating and going out the shop door, keeping the air quality in the workshop as clean as possible. But again, two little scrap pieces of material, and around 30 minutes, give or take, over at the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver, and we got this nice, creative, tropical tiki design. I feel like if you wanted to make a few of these and put these on a tiki bar, or if you were doing a tropical summer themed project, you could make these. You could glue a dowel rod on the back and stick these in the ground for decoration. But keep in mind they are made of wood, so I do not know what the life expectancy of a project like this would be if you left it out in the weather, so to speak. I hope that makes sense. But the Rust-Oleum clear gloss we added at the end really brought everything together and tied everything together and made those colors that we used with the acrylic craft pens pop and stand out. And I am really happy with how this project finished up. I can now put a hanger on the back and properly display it. If you made it a little bit smaller, as I said, I don't know how small you could go with it because of some of the details, you could potentially put some magnets on the back and make it a nice refrigerator magnet. You know, just a thought idea, thinking outside of the box. And of course, if you make a project like this, you can use totally different colors than I used. I just used, excuse me, what I thought was pleasing to the eye in today's video, and I hope you all like the colors that I selected, and I hope along the way from start until now you picked up a tip trick or tidbit along the way. I would, if you are just looking for a laser engraver and you had the funds available, I would highly encourage you all to maybe look at the TOOCAA laser engravers. They are a phenomenal company and their customer service is outstanding. And I want to thank them for supplying me with materials, the TOOCAA 20 watt, the TOOCAA 40 watt, and of course the camera that we have now installed to where we can take a photograph of the laser bed and line everything up precisely. Thank you so much, TOOCAA, and thank you all for following along on today's video. That's going to be about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click the subscribe button and follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, crew, and remember, if I can make it or do it, so can you all. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you all real soon.